unbelievable stories of major financial efforts going on in all parts of the world right now. And I hesitate to express the degree of faith that I have in, some sources of, relatively confidential information. But the fact of the matter is, so corrupt is this system that there are many things the world direly needs, and we would have had decades ago if it weren't for the further injustices of this so-called financial system and the ways that it tries to intervene between producers and consumers of the production to manipulate itself into positions of exploitation. And most of the money in the world that's going anywhere is going there for that at this time. And mathematically perfected economy enables us to eliminate that. Not by passing laws against it, which is something we can do, which is a further option, which is conducive to solution, but isn't necessary in a free world empowered to finance what it needs to do to solve its problems. Give you an example of that. I was talking about NESARA a week or two ago, and its affiliation with this Farm Aid program, and I mentioned issues with dairy farmers, which were raised at a Farm Aid concert a couple of years ago, 2009, and they basically stated that I forget exactly what the unit was. I think it was called 100 weight of milk. Cost dairy farmers were getting in the low $20 for it, just a short while back, and at the time of the 2009 program that elaborated on this, the price had gone down to something like $11 a hundredweight, and it cost $10 a hundredweight, to produce this, or it cost $12 a hundredweight to produce what they're only getting $11 for. And in other words, it was either no profit or a loss, which was perpetual and couldn't be sustained. At the same time, middlemen were making record profits. Now, how is this accomplished? Well, those who were attached closer to the purse strings of all this confiscation of wealth by the central banking system are positioned as agents of the inevitably super wealthy to quote reinvest unquote this money. And what are they looking for? Leverage, not just profit. They're looking for always maximal profit, regardless of producing anything at all. But they are more fit than these impoverished, broken farmers to develop a processing plant which all this milk could be trucked to and then packaged and delivered to the end markets. And so who finances this? Somebody who knows nothing about milk at all, who barely read or understood the business plan for this venture to capitalize a distribution plant. And the whole purpose of this is to leverage the farmers into a disadvantage. Then we've got further, capital that we can reinvest in all the farms, and they all become corporate farms. And next thing you know, it's a corporate world. And who is it owned by? The people that confiscated all the wealth. Under mathematically perfected economy, all these farmers can say, hey, look, okay, these are all the dairies that these guys are trucking milk from. Let's put them out of business. We're the people who know how to do all this. Let's buy the equipment. Not only will we buy it, we'll operate it, giving ourselves further employment, and we'll process our own milk. And we'll do it at minimal cost, at no more than the cost of the equipment, financed over the lifespan of the equipment, which is negligible, whereas they're paying half their former profits a year ago for distribution, while the distribution facility is making record profits, and so impoverishing the producers of the milk that they won't be able to survive another year, another 2 years, you see. So this is about empowerment and protection of what's rightfully ours, means of production, which we the people have developed. These people who take the money through this system, actually believe that they make the world tick, and it's the exact opposite of that. They're the problem. What happens to a viable industrial endeavor when the people who developed it and perfected every detail of its processes and pleased the markets and became a dominant power have to sell because they've been squeezed out of business by a lie of economy which can only impose terminal failure on all of us. Do the few employees who are left jump for joy thinking that a banker can run their business the way it needs to be run? Do they have faith that that business is going to survive now? Never. I mean, you can't ask that person a reasonably difficult question which is critical to the survival of that company. They probably don't have an answer. They certainly probably don't have a very good answer. Taking from the world isn't what makes the world tick. It's the ability to innovate, to perfect, and it's the very reward of like production for our production, or just reward, which is the whole motivating principle of true free enterprise. And you erase that. You nullify it under this purposed obfuscation of the currency, which can only dispossess us into terminal failure.
So I think then if it's getting away from the example a little bit, but just something that crossed my mind while you were talking about that, then it seems to me that the whole idea of stockholders and shareholders and investment banking and investments, anything to do with any kind of paper trading of that kind and that sort, I mean, it seems to me that would just go straight out of the window, and we're literally looking at manufacturing, production as being the lifeblood from that point on.
Absolutely. And that's a good point. We tend to, in our infancy of understanding the problem, which is this obfuscation of the currency and how it relates to anything and everything around us, we tend to relate to the end consequences of the obfuscation rather than tracing it to its root. Now, there are substantial sectors of the population of most countries in the world who would protest vehemently against that as a consequence. But except for the abusive traders, this transformation in a mathematically perfected economy takes care of them as well. How and why? Well, to understand why, we need, in truth, to look at basically any potential class of this kind of activity, analyze its contributions and costs, as well as its ostensible principles, not just to evaluate whether or not they're compatible with what most of us understand is the only engine of prosperity, and that is production. We have to understand that, in truth, there is no benefit from any of these activities whatsoever, and that, in truth, furthermore, there are inherently extremely detrimental consequences. The basic way that we can understand that is to see that the pool of wealth is a consequence of production. If I build a house, I either want the house or I want the equivalent of the house, because I'm a specialist in building houses who trades my production for the production of others. And when I do so, what do I want in return? I want the like of my house, as close as I can determine it. Now, what happens if we have people who take wealth without contributing commensurably to the pool of wealth is that their siphoning from the pool of wealth makes it mathematically impossible for the remainders of the producers of wealth to be rewarded commensurably with their production. Instead of getting the equivalent of if say, for instance, half the wealth is siphoned off without producing, and of course, if we're paying 5 homes for a home, then far more than half the wealth is being siphoned off for not producing. Especially if all things are financed by this obfuscation of the currency. So, if half the wealth is siphoned off for building a house, I can get half a house. If 4/5 of the wealth is siphoned off for not producing, I can get 1/5 of a house for producing a house. And of course, as multiplication of artificial indebtedness by interest multiplies the artificial sum of indebtedness, and ever more of a circulation is dedicated to servicing debt, ever less of the pool of wealth returns to us for whatever our contribution, until, of course, in the end we can't even meet our artificial obligations and we're dispossessed when we go into foreclosure or whatever. So this is this idea of unearned gain is mutually exclusive to the very idea of true free enterprise, the most important object and principle of which is just reward for production. So, how devastating is this facade? Well, you know, you might have grandma's got stock in IBM, and she doesn't care to understand anything about this monetary failure. As far as she's okay, she's fine. Now, she watches the news every night because her IBM stock has been vacillating for many years. And yesterday it went down $1. Today it comes back up 15